Welcome, IT changemakers, to the DEX Show with Tim Flower and Tom McGraw. Let's get into it.
Hello, changemakers. Welcome to the DEX Show's show within a show, which is, of course, Reality Bytes. And it feels like it's been a minute since we were able to bring the whole Reality Bytes team together. But here we are, excluding Dina presently. Dina is here as well. Dina, welcome. I'm sorry, I didn't see you for a second. How could I miss you? Hello, great to have you. It's all of us together. It's so rare that I just assumed that somebody was unable to make it, but that's not the case. So it's the full Reality Bytes crew. That is Tim, of course, Oriana, Dina, lest we forget, Sean and Megan. So wonderful to have you all here. And before we crack onto the topic of conversation today, I just thought we should have a word about one of our party who has launched an exciting new venture online, and that is my main man, Tim Flower, and his amazing new YouTube channel, Tim. Very impressive. I've been catching up on the content. It's very cool. Why don't you tell us all a bit about it and where people can find it?
Yeah, let's save the amazing for down the road. It's kind of an early venture right now, but call it the proactive IT guy. You know, I post a lot of things on LinkedIn and we do a lot of great work here, but I felt like I needed a little bit of an outlet to do something a little different, maybe a little bit lengthier and different format. So YouTube, the proactive IT guy, it just gives a place to explore some stories, share some technical detail, hope to grow it into a community that's not specifically about NextThink per se. It's more about proactive IT, a chance to bring in other technologies and explore some concepts that maybe we don't have all that much time to do here on the podcast. So come join. I'll once in a while post some links up on LinkedIn and we'll see where it goes. Excited
Fantastic.
about it,
Yeah, you're doing a great job so far. And I just want to say, just because the Beatles broke up straight after Paul McCartney's first solo album, I don't want that to be any kind of a precedent for this. It's not an indication of a fracture. Tim just needs a little bit more creative space. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm not. Don't think of me as Beyonce just yet. I'm not breaking out on my own.
Yeah, Beyonce. That's much closer. That's a much closer analogy, I'm sure. Brilliant. No, people should definitely check it out, and we'll put a link to the channel in the show notes, of course. So we are going to be discussing today industry cloud platforms. Very interesting topic brought to us by Sean once again. Thanks for that, Sean. And before we get into industry cloud platforms specifically, I wonder, Tim, if it might be a nice way to kick things off to give us a kind of overview of the developments of the cloud that you've seen through your career and how that kind of dovetails into NextThink's specific development over the last couple of years with Infinity, etc.
Yeah, we all know I've got that 100-year IT career. So first came the abacus.
Get ready. It's going to take a while. No,
I'm going to go back to first the dinosaurs came. No, I did a little research to see when the term cloud computing was first used in public. Google claims ownership of the birthday of cloud computing as a term, and they've got a very specific date, August 9th, 2006, at a conference where their CEO used the term. But it didn't feel like that was old enough. It felt like it went back further. So I did a little more research, and there are people that reference it back in the early 90s at the birth of the internet. And some even say back into the 60s with mainframe computing. But really, cloud just means someone else's computer. It's not mine. It's out in the cloud. And we used to use it in network drawings and diagrams to depict those other internet-based computers on our diagram that we didn't need to worry about. It's out in the cloud. Don't worry about it. It's not in our data center. It's obscured. You can't see into it, but you don't need to worry about it. That's someone else's problem. All we need is the service that comes from it. So the cloud really started as a drawing to depict the fact that something was happening somewhere else. And then it evolved into what we see today, including things like private cloud. We rent the data center. We rent the servers that are in the data center. We just own what runs there. We want control of the software, so we put it in a private cloud. And that kind of gets us to where we are today with all the different types of cloud computing platforms. Industry cloud is real interesting because for commercial enterprises, I think it offers an opportunity to further commoditize those corporate functions that really don't require me to be different from my competitor, right? My procurement process
Right.
doesn't differentiate me from anybody else. It's table stakes. Same thing with like accounts payable, or even the platform that we use to create our innovation. Our application development platforms don't matter. It's the innovation that we create on top of them that matters. So this is going to be interesting as we start to verticalize the cloud and incorporate different components. I think it's got benefit, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But I also think it's going to get complicated because the stakeholders required to be at the table are going to get big. And when you involve more people, it's the people that are hard. The technology is the easy part. The people are tough. So I'm real interested to see what the rest of the group thinks about it.
Amazing. Yeah, but we'll dive into that momentarily. But first of all, Sean, because you brought this to us, and I wonder if you could help me to wrap my brain around this a little bit more beyond Tim's excellent kind of potted history there. So, put it this way: for someone with half a brain like myself, the differences between software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and now industry cloud platforms can be a little confused, if I'm honest. What stood out to you about this topic in terms of its pertinence for the show? And then can you help me disentangle these kind of competing constructs in my head a little bit, please?
Sure, no problem. And I'll use all of the half a brain I can for this topic too, because it is a
Together,
complicated
a
one.
whole one.
But I think probably the easiest way to work through it, or at least the thing that's most pertinent for me that I picked up, was for a specific industry, for a specific vertical like healthcare. I think this is huge because, for example, like medical imaging, it will generate a lot of data like MRIs and X-rays, and analyzing that is obviously very important. And you're doing things that you probably wouldn't in other industries, like trying to work through image resolution and segmentation and things like that. Plus, in the U.S., they can bake into the vertical cloud platform HIPAA compliance, which is important in some of these other kind of documentation systems and electronic filing systems. So I can understand beyond that. I can't break down all the different software as a service, infrastructure as a service, those differences. But for a specific industry like that, manufacturing, finance, with all the multi-factor authentication that goes into it and security, I can understand it. I think it's when you get towards, next thing we work with a lot of different verticals. I'm not quite sure what would be the metric or the rubric that somebody would use to determine, is this for me or not? And maybe we can discuss that today.
And I think maybe Dina might be the person to go to in giving us a sense of the do's and don'ts, the possibilities and impossibilities around like leveraging the industry cloud platform around DEX. Dina, what should we be very aware of? And first of all, what are the opportunities that stand out to you here?
So, like Tim mentioned earlier, the cloud term is very old since I think the invention of telephones. Even we just used to reference to any complicated infrastructure as the cloud, right? This is where the connectivity is going to be. We're just going to make magic happen in the background and boom, get you connected from point A to point B. Similarly, if you're talking about Nextthink, Infinity, and how we are hosting our platform in the cloud, we're just trying to make it easier for our customers to not really worry about the infrastructure in the background, and we're going to get you connected. We're going to get your data in there. We're going to protect it, make sure it's secured, governed, up to date, patched, etc. So we look after that bit, which takes a lot of headache from every customer to maintain their own platform, but still get the services out there done in a seamlessly amount of time, and even have very good SLAs. So they are almost always connected 99.9% of the time and all of that. So this is where the beauty of the term cloud comes in place, where it's easier. However, with some industries, like Sean was mentioning, with healthcare, banks, etc., there's a little bit of lack of participation at the beginning because of all of the security and where is my data, who's taking care of it, and GDPR stuff, etc. But as we evolve and as technology has evolved, and like Tim was mentioning earlier, technology is easier to maintain. It's the people behind it. We are able to make sure that the data is secured, it's governed, it's completely monitored and taken care of. So this is where we can help let people adopt more the digital transformation in place. And I think COVID has helped a lot with that. Post-COVID, people are more applying to actually, or less resistant to putting their data up in the cloud, if that term applies.
We've kind of been circling, I feel like, the whole question of governance and compliance. And in the chat prior to the show, Oriana, you used an emoji with the not just a smiling face, but with hearts for eyes, one of the most positive emojis I could imagine, pertaining to the issue around governance, which I have to say, the passion and enthusiasm for that specific area caught me a little bit by surprise. You don't often see it, but there is something around governance and the sort of industry cloud platform that gets you excited, and I am fascinated to hear where this takes us. Come on, Oriana, where does it go? Why so enthusiastic?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is that I'm deeply nerdy and not the fun kind of nerd where I can explain to you like how the
Okay,
Marvel Cinematic Universe works. I'm the kind of nerd who's like, yes, let's talk about
let's do it.
governance, because I think that is the thing that stands out to me immediately as a huge opportunity, because it's such a huge challenge to every industry. But it looks different in every context, right? And also, I really like that we're talking about history, because that's the other thing that I'm super nerdy about.
Sure.
And something that I've heard is this idea of the fourth industrial revolution was data, right? Data is central to everything. And when it comes to digital platforms, we have everything revolving around how do you manage the flow of data. So there's the sort of three main elements, right, to a B2B digital platform. There's the architecture, there's the services, and there's the governance. And the governance really controls how everything else works, at least in theory. In practice, it's really, really tough, and it's incredibly specific. And the more massive your data gets, and the more highly varied, right? Because that's the other big factor is companies have a lot of different types of data. Even if you're thinking about healthcare, right? You have regulations like HIPAA, but you also have other things besides patient data, right? You have all the finances. So you have a lot of different types of things that need to be managed, that need to be controlled. And depending on the industry, it's not just regulations, but also different needs. So you need to have flex in different places, right? Retail is the classic example. You have very, very different data flow at different times of years. And so you need a cloud infrastructure and rules around how that is managed to adjust to those different needs, and also to keep it under control so that you're not just hemorrhaging money into the cloud, which is something that almost every tech company struggles with at some point or other because it is so expensive. So governance is also about efficiency and security and all of these things that are just critical to every element of IT, but also deeply unsexy, right? Like this is the kind of thing that is very scary for people to deal with. So I think the great opportunity with industry cloud is that when it's vertical and when it's customized to your particular needs, it allows that to be much more tailored and much more efficient.
Megan, I'm interested in the sort of psychology of what are for us customer organizations, who of course you work with a great deal here at NextThing, but who are the people who have to, who will be confronted with the advantages of industry cloud platforms, but also hyper aware of some of the complications and even risks that they present. What is your view of the general reaction to them on the ground?
So, in trying to research for this webinar, or not webinar, this podcast episode, I was like trying to wrap my head around this concept. And some things kind of jumped out to me, and I think Oriana touched on some of these. One is just going to be cost, right? What I hear when I hear customers talking about cloud and cloud storage and cloud computing is that just the cost, especially when you're talking about like large enterprises with so much data, the cost of trying to analyze that data, of trying to work with that data, it just goes up and up and up really quickly. So I think if an industry vertical specific cloud solution can help keep those costs down or control those costs in some way, then I think that this sort of thing would be attractive. But if it isn't able to control costs, if it's just lipstick on a pig, then I don't know that that would be that appealing. And then the other element that seems interesting is the security aspect of it. So, like, when you're looking at like government, public sector, right? They're completely resistant to cloud solutions. They don't want
Yeah.
to go into the cloud because you can't keep it secure. So if there could be some sort of public sector specific cloud solution beyond the one that maybe they develop for themselves, then I think that it could have that kind of appeal. But that's another element to it that I see being important to navigate, because otherwise, yeah, like what is the difference between just like your general public cloud or one that's industry specific? Like, what value does it being industry specific bring? And maybe I just don't fully understand it yet, but those seem to be the things that jump out to me. And then the ability to handle proprietary applications. So, like, a couple of the articles that I was reading mentioned the financial industry a lot. And I know a lot of our customers in the financial space have a lot of their own kind of homegrown applications that are essential to the running of their digital workplace. And a cloud solution needs to be able to manage those or to balance them in a hybrid environment. So that's what jumped out to me.
Yeah, the government side of it, cloud.gov is out there. I agree. The government entities need not just functionality and usability, but they've got different security concerns. So definitely not only a vertical, but a huge vertical. There are so many endpoints and people in that fall into that category. I think that one's the one that's going to grow with the most value. And then to your other point, Megan, about value, I think consolidating into an industry vertical allows you to bring multiple functions, like I was talking about, procurement, accounts payable, app dev, that all maybe have their own small piece of value, but when looked at holistically, it brings more people to the table to bring more value to the whole versus doing it individually. So I think that there's more opportunity there to pull more value out of cloud services when you combine them.
Tim, interested to know what the sort of experience of the rollout of NextThink Infinity over the last couple of years maybe tells us about the cloud space in general, and about kind of cross-industry functionalities and special services and such like that enables. And I suppose in terms of uptake and enthusiasm too.
Yeah, so from an internal IT perspective, migrating from your own data center to a cloud data center is tremendously complicated, can cause outages, data loss, downtime, and I experienced a lot of that. I think our own migration as a company from an on-prem solution to a cloud solution, our board members who are CEOs at some of the largest security firms and other SaaS providers around have told us that our migration from on-prem to cloud is one of the smoothest they've seen in the industry, and not just the DEX industry, the SaaS industry. So I think what that tells me is cloud, not only cloud services and cloud implementations, but the ability to move from one place to another is getting more mature. We've done it as an industry more and more frequently, and we understand from a nuts and bolts perspective, as well as a company impact perspective, how to do it and how to do it smoothly. So I think the whole industry is maturing and looking for the next place to get value, to get benefit, to get smooth operations, and to be more competitive than your competitors. I just think it's maturing. And then we talk about AI all the time and Gen AI and all that other automation stuff. It's going to be real interesting to see how cloud and Gen AI really come together and kill it in the next couple of years.
Possibly another simple way to look at it, somebody who's going through the decision process, is just you have your in-house capabilities, your coding and stuff that you've invested in. And I think those are the things that differentiate you from the market. And it's kind of just comes down to what do you want to keep and maintain your competitive edge. Everything else is pretty much a commodity that you can determine to replace with some other service. It's a simple way to look at it. I know there's a lot more that goes into it, but I think that's another angle.
Yes, I think it's gonna be very interesting to see how AI plays a role into that. So it's gonna be my thoughts are it's going to be more towards simplifying the governance, simplifying the security aspect of it, and maintaining it and administration. So the edge would be more into how we can utilize the services to its full capabilities, Just like we used to be having smaller USB drives, and now we have terabytes of data into a very little USB or chip where we can save all our data. So it's going to grow into that perspective, and I think having all of the customized content that we have in place is just going to get better. The time that we can take into modifying it is going to be much less. So we will be advancing much further, I think, in the future with the collab of both cloud and AI aspect into it.
An excellent final thought, Dina. Thank you so much. And thanks, everybody. It was lovely to see you all on the same show once again. See you all again, hopefully next month. And just a final reminder to listeners to check out Tim's new YouTube channel. You find a link to that in the show notes. And just remains for me to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the podcast deserves. If you'd like to learn more about how NextThink can help you improve your digital employee experience, head over to nextthink.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.